20 minutes before the excommunicado, John went to the library to retrieve a rosary and marker. There he meets Ernest, an assassin who was once a friend and now wants to kill him. Initially struggled by Ernest's huge body, John quickly regained his composure and finished him off. After the battle, John was injured, so he had to find an underworld doctor. Receiving help, John was forced to shoot him to prevent him from getting into trouble with the High Table. Right after the excommunicado goes into effect, John confronts a gang of Chinese assassins at a weapons store and soon an Italian gang. John demonstrates superior combat skills in knife and barehanded battles. After clearing everything, John jumped on a horse and sped off. The fierceness of the pencil man caused his bounty to be raised to $15 million. John brings the marker and rosary to meet the director, the boss of an assassin training center disguised as a theater. Here, John uses the last favor the director owes him in demand for a trip to Casablanca.
Where did you want to go?
Casablanca.
You'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
Not this Casablanca, but this Casablanca. Meanwhile, a cool female character known as Adjudicator comes to Winston and accuses him of helping John. This action resulted in Winston being forced to leave Continental within 7 days. The Adjudicator then also went to Bowery King and forced him to resign because he indirectly helped John kill Santino. As for John, he goes to Casablanca and meets Sophia, an old friend and manager of Continental Casablanca. John gives a marker and demands Sophia to take him to her former boss, Barada, to ask how he can meet the Elder, who runs the High Table, in hopes of persuading him to withdraw the excommunicado. Barada tells John that he must cross the desert and follow the stars until he can't move on, then the Elder will find him. After giving vague instructions, Barada demanded one of Sophia's 2 dogs, which she refused. Barada shot the dog, an act that never worked out well in the world of John Wick. Fortunately, this dog was wearing a bulletproof vest. This action made Sophia extremely angry. She shot back Barada and started a fight. In the end, the two escaped. Sophia took John to the desert and fulfilled her marker and parted from there. John goes into the desert. He walked along the dunes until the sun went down. Then he kept going until he collapsed. The Adjudicator goes to recruit a ninja assassin named Zero to punish all those related to John. The first to find the director, she recited the oath of the Ruska Roma to the High Table and received a sword through both hands. As for Bowery King, because he did not agree to abdicate, he received 7 sword strokes. As for Winston, he also refused to leave. Now in the desert, John wakes up in the Elder's hut. He gives John 2 options. One is to die here immediately, or else he will have to return to be an assassin serving the High Table for the rest of his life. All he had to do was kill Winston. John agreed to the pledge by chopping off his wedding ring finger and giving the ring to the Elder. John returns to New York and confronts Zero's group, and then they chase John to the entrance of the Continental. Just when Zero is about to swing a knife to finish John, Sharon appears and says,
Put your weapon down.
Because the excommunicado order has been withdrawn and John is protected in Continental. John meets Winston again at the Continental. Winston says he knows John is here to kill him, but he has a better plan. He convinces that if John pulls the trigger, he will sell his soul, spending the rest of his life as a tool for the High Table. But if he followed his plan, he could hold his head high and fight against the council and eventually die as a man his wife loved. Soon the Adjudicator came to see Winston resign. Winston refused. John also refuses to kill Winston at her demand. It seems like our gentlemen don't know how terrible the consequences of rejecting a girl can be. In the true sense of the court, the Adjudicator picked up the phone and announced that the Continental New York had been expelled, and now there were no more laws to protect the people in the hotel. High Table will soon send someone to deal with those who dare to rebel. Meanwhile, Winston leads John and Sharon into an arsenal full of guns. The successive attacks from the High Table were then stopped by John and Sharon. John displayed incredible combat ability and concentration as he single-handedly weighed a dozen fully equipped assassins. The adjudicator had to call Winston to request a treaty of reconciliation. Meanwhile, John goes to the final fierce battle, facing Zero and two of his students in a mirror room. After defeating Zero's student and defeating him, John is almost completely exhausted. He returned to Winston, who and the adjudicator were negotiating a settlement agreement on the roof. When John arrives, the adjudicator declares that he will restore the Continental in the position of the hotel owner. In exchange for Winston having to personally punish his friend, he agrees and shoots John, causing him to fall from the roof of the hotel. The adjudicator looks pleased and leaves, but then she backs and informs Winston that John is gone and he is still a threat to both of them. We then see a seriously wounded John Wick taken to the Bowery King, where he mentions a future revenge and John agrees, opening up the future with planned battles.